Level 1.
Welcome to the Outer Rim Rookie Beginner's Journey to join the 501st and Rebel Legion. My name is Rob Williams. Today, episode 1 of my Ree Yees costume build, and I couldn't be more excited. First off, I've always been said that you have to treat every episode like it's the first time someone's seen it. So let's quickly go over some of the things you need to know before we start this build. Back when I was in grade 5, I built a paper mache mask based on a Star Wars alien I had seen in Return of the Jedi. His name was Ree Yees. It was hokey, it was really bad, but I loved it. A year later in grade 6, I actually dressed up like him for this kind of costume book celebration. And I put on the paper mache mask, got my sweater on, got some jogging pants, gum boots, painted my hands up, and I was the very first, world's first Ree Yees cosplayer. Fast forward 35 plus years later, I'm doing it again. And this is so exciting for me. You have no idea. Before we get into the build though, let's do a little bit of history on who is Ree Yees.
Ree Yees is a grand male from the planet Kinyan who worked for Jabba the Hutt. His main job was to take care of the frog dog Bubbo, which was not very glamorous. He was originally designed to be Admiral Akbar. However, looking through all the alien designs, George Lucas went with the Mon Calamari instead and relegated Ree Yees to henchman status. In Return of the Jedi, you can see Ree Yees whooping it up while Ula or Luke fall into the Rancor pit, or standing behind Jabba muffling C-3PO moments after Han is freed from the carbonite. It was presumed he had died with the rest of Jabba's creatures when Jabba's sail barge exploded, but he has recently made a quiet yet surprising return when he is seen chatting in the background during the end credit scene of The Mandalorian Season 2 finale.
Seriously, baby, I can prescribe anything I want.
The Ree's character or likeness has also made a number of other appearances in other Star Wars related media, most notably in the Dark Forces video game and the Star Tours ride at Disneyland, where he is seen in a safety video smoking away while holding a unique three-eyed camera. Ree Yees is not a very well-known character, but is recognizable for many Star Wars fans, and will always be a favorite of mine.
So if you're new to the Outer Rim Rookie show, some things you need to know about me before we start. One, I'm not very good at building costumes. Season 1, I had my very good friend Terry Chu of Panda Props and Costumes help me build my Scout Trooper. It was a 3-year-long process, a little bit of interruptions here and there, but we got it done. I learned how to sew, I learned how to do a whole bunch of other things with Velcro and sanding and stuff. It was a great adventure, a great experience, and I learned a lot. Now let's fast forward to 2020, COVID hits, but I still get my hands on this awesome Neon Nun costume. So I decided I'm going to challenge myself and try to rebuild this costume to fit myself and to upgrade it to the standards that I want. And a year later, I am now part of the Rebel Legion. Fast forward again to now, and now I'm taking on a third costume. I've learned so much over the last little while, and there's still so much more to learn. This time it's going to be harder. This time it's going to be a lot more challenging, but this time it's personal. So today's episode is basically a rundown of what I need to get done in this costume by following the CRL. Now, what is the CRL, you may be asking? The CRL is the Costume Reference Library. Every costume that's in the 501st Legion has a CRL. It basically tells you what the costume should look like. Now, there are different stages to certain costumes. Certain costumes have an entry level, and then there's different levels of how perfect you want it. I'm not that type of person. I just want to have entry level, but still look respectable, look awesome, and that's my goal for Ree Yees. The CRL for Ree Yees is relatively new. It's only about 3 years old, maybe 2 years old. Since there's only about 3, maybe 4 people in the 501st are actually dressed up as Ree Yees. There's not a lot of people to talk to about what a Ree Yees costume should look like. And I kind of like it because I feel like I can take a little bit of information that they've learned, learn off of it, and build off of it. It's a little bit of open waters that I'm sailing here, and I kind of like doing that. We will go step by step through the CRL, what the costume should look like, what are the parts that go into it, the fabrics, the materials that go into building the Ree Yees costume, and what it should look like in the end. So let's get this started. First up, we got to talk about the head. First step, we need to get the head and the hands. And if you saw my last video, that's already been done. I went to a company called 7 Heads and 10 Horns. and they produce this amazing Ree Yees head. They've been doing it for a while, about 3, 4, 5 years maybe, and the mold really hasn't changed much, and I'm glad it didn't because it's a wonderful, wonderful mold. Let's take a look at the head and hands first of all.
The CRL on the mask and the hands are pretty straightforward. Without going into too much detail, it needs to look a lot like Ree Yees. There are a couple places that make a latex mask, but the best one I've found, hands down, is 7 Heads and 10 Horns, based in the United States. The key here is to make sure that the hands and face look realistic, has the same jaw shape, the jaw length, and the bulbous back of the head, just like in the movies. And 7 Heads and 10 Horns seem to have it down pat, so that's my recommendation.
So there you go. There's the head. The hands are over there on a rack. And I will show you how I built a rack and how I'm going to store the head and hands in another video after this one here, because it is super important that I make sure that this latex mask is kept well, kept safe, and protected, and easy to carry around in a box. It's strange that this costume has the biggest box of all 3 of my costumes, but it also needs the most TLC in this one. Ain't that right? I think one of my biggest challenges when it comes to this costume, besides the sewing part, is being able to breathe in this bad boy. This is my biggest concern. I want to be able to breathe well, have good ventilation, not ruin the inside or the outside of this mask, and still enjoy it for longer than 10-15 minutes. If I can get a half hour out in the floor or out in public, that's my goal. If I can get longer, even better. But ventilation is key, and I'm thankful that there is an open mouth here, open nose, and I think we can figure something out. I have talked to friends about tubes or hoses that will allow fresh air in and out. It's a tricky one. It's a real tricky one. And later down the road, I will talk to my friends like Steve 3, who has a Bith costume. He tells me that it's a hard one to breathe in, but he has some tips and tricks hopefully up his sleeve as well. All right, so now we got head and hands. Let's talk about the tunic.
I really enjoy this tunic. It's made of brown nylon or canvas, has these vertical stripes, and there's about 11 of them. The shoulders flare out in this space age 80s style to it. What's also unique about this is the V-shaped collar that goes down in the front. This whole tunic is also very padded, so there's probably going to be some bunting that goes inside it. Some of the best shots I found of a tunic is from this German seamstress right here. This is the goal, and this is what I'm going to be using as inspiration. There's more to this tunic, but we'll get into greater detail when it's time to build the tunic. In the end though, what's important is that it fits my body right, making sure the flares on the shoulder are right, the length on the torso is right, and the length in the arms are right.
As you saw with the tunic, that's going to require a lot of help and a lot of patience. But I think I can do this. With the help of Katie and some other friends, I think this is possible. Just starting out this process, the hardest part that I've discovered was trying to find the material. Fingers crossed, and I'm going to have to make a lot of phone calls. Now that we got the tunic out of the way, let's take a look at the pants.
The pants are a very simple design. It's the same material as the tunic, which is a brown nylon or canvas material, but it also has 2 gray stripes running down either side. What I'm going to do for this project though is I'm going to attach the knee pads to the pants as well. In the CRL, they claim that the knee pads are attached to the spats, but when I look at this behind the scenes picture here, it's clearly attached to the pants, and that's what I'm going to go for.
So as you can see, the pants are relatively simple in design. It's like a track pants that I had back in the 80s. I wore track pants back in my costume in 1985, so I think I was on my way there and didn't realize it. Now, let's talk about the boots.
The boots are pretty straightforward. They're sand or tan colored with a rubber toe. They're mostly covered by the spat, so you don't see too much of it. This photo again comes up as very useful because I've been told that this is a palladium boot similar to that of the Scout Trooper, so that's the one I'm going to focus on. I might need to color it a little bit yellow though on the rubber part just to match the spat.
The boots are on its way. It's my Christmas present for my parents. It was really nice of them to help me out with that one. I'm going to have to do some coloring on the boots, as I said, but it's going to look fantastic. Now, what about the spats? We got to talk about the spats that go over those boots.
The spats are made of suede and they're going to be a deep straw color or mustard in color. They extend all the way to the knee with 2 small ribs on the top, and they will cover the top part of the foot, leaving the rubber sole of the foot open. Now, the CRL states the knee pads should be attached to the spats. However, as said before, I'm going to keep it separate from the spats and just attach it to the pants.
So the spats look very similar to what I did with Nyan Nun's gaiters, but obviously there's a lot more detail that has to be added to it, and the material is quite different too. Material that I'm still not quite familiar with how to use, but I like it. I like the color of it. It's very late 70s, early 80s. And that knee pad thing is one of the things that I think is going to be a bit of discussion piece when it comes to the design of Ree Yees and this costume. But I'm pretty confident that his knee pads are on the pants itself, based on those pictures I saw. All right, now let's talk about the belt.
The belt is made of leather or a leather-like material. It goes around the waist above the tunic. There are also 2 little poppers on the front. On either side of the belt, on the left and right near the hip, there's also 2 silver metal boxes. I've seen some people design them slightly curved, and I like that design, so I might stick with that. There's not much else to say about the belt. A lot of the pictures I use for research are either very dark or very grainy, so I'm taking the word from the other costumers on this one.
The belt is where I'm probably going to ask for a lot of help from Deo on. Not just the leather part of it, but putting those little 2 knobbies on the front there. I've been having a lot of trouble finding good pictures of the belt, but I think based on some other people's designs and builds, I'm going to stick with what they have and just go with it. And those 2 little pieces for the belt, that's going to be a bit tricky too, but we'll figure it out. We always do. And that's about it. That's all we need for the costume. But is that what I'm going to finish with? No, it is not. I have some other things I'm planning on doing with this costume, or add-on pieces to this costume that I haven't mentioned. I'm going to keep secret, just in case I screw it up. I have a whole bunch of different ideas for this. I'm so super excited about this. I have talked to a couple people off air about it, and it is possible. It is possible to build these special projects, but more about that later. So there you go. There's the CRL on our big guy here. I am super excited about this. I'm looking forward to the final project. When will it be done? I don't know. My goal is a year, but every time I lay out goals, it becomes disappointing when I don't achieve it. I remember with the Scout Trooper costume, I meant to be in the Canada Day Parade. I meant to be at a con. I meant to be at that other con. I meant to be at that other con. And it was never possible due to circumstances out of my control. The goal is to get it done and get it done well. When it's going to happen, it will happen. I'm super excited. This dude's super excited. My friends are excited. This is going to be a lot of fun. All right. So. All right. That's gross. That's really gross. It's really gross. So tips before we go. Keep a CRL together. Whether you like to do it with your phone or iPad or whatever. Or for me, I'm more of a paper guy. It must be my generational thing. I like to keep it in a nice little duotang. Must be my teacher thing. And have notes ready to go and look at it. This has been very handy for me. It's filled with photos, writing. I have discussions on forums about it. It's been very helpful. Now, obviously, the pictures are not color. That's where I have to use my phone. But it is useful. So keep that CRL handy. And hopefully, you keep me handy. Like, subscribe, share. I hope you enjoy this venture as much as I will. It's going to be a lot of fun, and I hope you have fun too. That being said, thanks for watching. We're going to get going. We got to start. This is gross. We got to get going. Thanks for watching. Remember, armor and grands are built on hope. Bye.